Today I'm going to demonstrate my acrylic brush for ArtStudio Pro. Hi everyone, I'm demoing my single brush does all brush for ArtStudio Pro, and I would first of all say that to use this brush you need to make sure you have the paint option selected and then choose the acrylic brush for your paintbrush. You also then need to choose the same brush for the eraser, and then finally choose the same brush for the smudge or blend tool, whatever you want to call it. So you've set that brush up for everything. Once you've done that, we can start painting. Now basically this brush, I'm going to produce this whole painting without changing any of the settings at all in the brush except the flow and the size of the brush. So you can see here I've put an initial wash on, and that was with a really huge brush and hardly any flow at all to get that sort of wet watercolor look. I'm then going in, I've created a new layer. I am then going in, adding, I suppose I'm sketching out the shape of this old derelict church. This is in a place called Lockington. It's either Lockington or Hemington. I think this is in Lockington actually, near Castle Donington. I'm just sort of blocking this old derelict church in with the brush. I've now set the size much smaller and I've just upped the flow a tiny little bit, and you can see I'm getting these wispy brush strokes in, almost like a dry brush painting over the wet surface of an acrylic painting, putting those shapes in. I used the eraser there to lift some, actually I didn't, I used white paint to add that, and you can see I'm using that brush again now to sort of add the groundwork to the church, and then I'm going into the foreground and I'm just putting in colour. So this was a black and white photo, obviously one that I took a while ago, and I am adding my own colour. I'm using the colour sliders on the right hand side, I think they're called HSL sliders. I really like them. You can choose, if you're not really sure what kind of palette you're going to go with, which I didn't here, it makes it very easy to select colours, and they're all at your fingertips, which is a great tool really. I like this, that I can use just this one brush. It just doesn't stop the flow of the painting. You can just totally concentrate on what you're doing, and then when you use the smudge or the eraser, it doesn't change the shape or the style of what you're working in. It just keeps that exactly the same. So I'm just sort of building up layers, and it's kind of, this one's turning out a little bit more like a watercolor. The pumpkin painting that I did using the same brush, that looks much closer to an oil or acrylic painting than this one does. You can see there now I've upped the flow to maximum to get much thicker, denser, not necessarily thicker lines, and I'm putting in sort of detail, and then using that smudge brush to soften off those edges considerably, adding a bit of sort of the church in the background there between the gap of the archway, and then going in with some much darker colour to bring out the stonework. So I'm using the same brush. I've got that flow right up, and you can see it all the while I'm adjusting the size of that brush. Now I've adjusted it again, taking the flow right back down again now, put in some more work. So you can see that same brush can be used there for doing detail work. Changing the colours all the time, sort of mixing it between yellowy browns, warmer browns and blue. for that stonework. That sort of kind of works quite well. That's sort of a colour scheme that I'm sort of, I wouldn't say I've invented or anything like that, but it's one that I sort of developed for myself, and it's a sort of a fallback colour scheme if I'm painting stonework, really. Just sort of those blues and browns and yellows. Just adds a nice look to the stonework without it looking cold or too brown, too sandy. So I've got the flow really down again now. And I'm just using the eraser, actually. You see I'm erasing stonework on there. Just sort of, so I'm sort of going in now with the detail of this wall. And now I'm going in, painting in. I've created a new layer and I'm painting in these twigs in the foreground, softening them off. And I use, to sort of get them to sort of soften off to nothing, I use the blending brush. Again, adjusting the size of that as well, just to run that through the tips. And then I create a new layer, set the blend mode to add. Well, actually, I think it was color dodge. And then I use a really light color and I start painting in. So I'm not erasing, I'm actually painting on here these sort of leaves that have caught the summer light. And there we are, I'm using it to put some highlights in on the side of the stonework. Now the leaves on the little bush on the left hand side, they're going in. I then change the colour slightly, just to put a little bit of colour underneath the bottom of the leaves, where it's probably not catching the full sun. Putting in a few more twigs and branches, and then I kind of look at it and think I think I may, once I'd signed it, I should have left it there, and I think I may have spoilt the painting, but I don't know. I put a little bit more darker stonework in to show that sort of peering through the bush. No, I think I like it, actually. No, it's cool, it's okay. And then I did a little bit more, tiny little bit of work in the foreground, just to sort of put in a little leaf in there. That's painted in. So you can see this one brush has done this huge sort of wet in wet sky, all the sort of moody stonework, and then the fine detail. And that is it. That is a demo using my one brush does all acrylic brush. You can get this free on my website. I'll put a link to that obviously below. And if you've enjoyed the video, big thumbs up as always, much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Bye.